Sold at 3, enslaved for decades, abused, abandoned, left to die twice. But one voice changed everything. Malai escaped human trafficking, found her lost daughters, and now walks into darkness with light. Want to know how? Watch till the end, you won't believe what set Malai free.
My earliest memory is of crying alone inside a locked storage room. I was just 3 years old when my mother sold me off as a temporary laborer, something she did often. She would drop me off at shops, leave me for a few days, then hand me off to the next one. When I was about 4, she took me to a house in Bangkok. A man greeted her at the door and handed her 2,000 Thai baht, about $58. She laughed. I thought we'd stay a few days. But my mother never came back. That man became my captor. He lived with his 4th wife and their 10 children. I was kept in the house to cook, clean, serve, and follow strict religious practices. I was allowed minimal homeschooling, just enough to be useful. At night, I was locked into a tiny room, my cage. If I ever pretended to pray or work, he would beat me and lock me away without food or water for 3 days. Over time, I grew numb. I buried my emotions so deeply that I didn't even dare to dream. I hadn't seen the world outside that house in years. When I turned 18, I became pregnant by my captor. Each night, after scrubbing, serving, and suffering, I'd sit by my window, belly heavy, staring into the dark. Why am I here? I whispered. I gave birth to a baby girl. But she was taken from me immediately. I didn't know her name. I never saw her again. At 25, I became pregnant again. And that's when it happened. A voice. Gentle, quiet, but unmistakable. It's okay, just stay alive. I didn't know where the voice came from, but it comforted me. When I delivered the second baby girl, she too was taken away instantly. But the voice returned, stronger this time. It's going to be okay. One night, not long after the birth, I woke up at 3 a.m. Jump, the voice said. Escape. It's time. My room was on the 2nd floor. I hesitated. Could I survive the fall? Just then, the man's sister entered with a child, a little girl around 6 or 7. The moment I saw her face, I knew. This was my first daughter. They left after just a moment, but I had bargained with the voice before she arrived. If I jump, I had said, you must give me back everything I've lost. Seeing my daughter, even briefly, gave me courage. So I jumped and I ran. A woman in the community helped me. She sent me to stay with her brother in another town. I worked in his shop. I was free but only from outside. Then came a man, an American Army officer. He worked at the U.S. Embassy and began pursuing me romantically. Do you want to see America? He asked. No one had ever asked me what I wanted. I believed he could give me a new beginning. I followed him to Chicago. But it wasn't freedom. It was another prison. He abused me for years. I worked hard, cleaning houses, managing flower shops, doing whatever I could, but all my earnings went into medical bills. I tested positive for HIV. I developed tuberculosis. I was hospitalized. I had nothing left. Then he sent me back to Bangkok. In Bangkok, I lay paralyzed in a hospital bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't see. I couldn't remember my name. I was dying. I called upon every god I knew. Nothing happened. Then one day, an American friend visited. She spoke of Jesus. Why don't you ask Jesus to be your savior? She said. I couldn't speak. I couldn't respond, but inside, I cried out, if you are with me, come save me. But things didn't get better. The doctors gave up. They told my relatives to prepare for my funeral. My mother had died by then, so my brother and aunt came, though we had never met. Afraid of infection, they placed me in a small house, far away, and waited for me to die. For 6 weeks, I had no food, no medicine. Just water from my aunt every now and then. But I never felt alone. That voice returned. The same one that spoke to me before. This time, it said one word, live, in that little house, I understood, it had been Jesus all along. His presence gave me strength. Slowly, I came back to life. My wounds healed. My mind cleared. Then one day, he said, "Come out." Like Lazarus, I stumbled out of the house. When the villagers saw me, they gasped. The doctors couldn't believe it. Some thought I was a twin, or someone else entirely. A pastor who had visited me in the hospital reconnected with me. He introduced me to a Christian ministry called The Well, where I began healing, body and soul. I told him I wanted to know more about this voice that had saved me. That's when I gave my life to Jesus. With his help, I enrolled in a Baptist seminary in Bangkok and earned a certificate in biblical studies. I felt reborn. But then God did something unexpected. He told me to go back. Back to the very Muslim community where I had been enslaved. Forgive them, he said. Love them. My daughters were still there. But they refused to return them to me because I had become a Christian. So I started small. I brought food. I sat with the elders. I accompanied women to hospitals. I shared my story of how Jesus had saved me. 8 years passed. Then one day, the man who had enslaved me called. He was dying of cancer. He asked me to see him. I sat beside him as he lay bedridden. He looked into my eyes and said, "Can you forgive me?" Then he added, "Can you bring me bread and coffee?" The same man who had starved and beaten me, now asked me to serve him? I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But I remembered Jesus, his love, his mercy, his command to forgive. I brought the bread. And something inside me broke free. In that moment, I was no longer his prisoner. I was no longer afraid. I was free. Before he passed, he asked, "Do you want your daughters back?" He didn't need to ask twice. Today, they are with me, grown, healed, and whole. They are 25 and 32. When I jumped out of that window all those years ago, I asked God to return what I had lost. He did. He gave me back my daughters. He gave me back my name. He gave me life. And now, through him, I help others, prostitutes, abused children, trafficking victims, the homeless. I walk into dark places with the light he gave me. I am living proof that God speaks in the darkness. And when he speaks, chains break. Dead things come back to life. And what was once lost, is never beyond his power to restore.
Thank you for watching. Click on these to watch more real-life transformational stories. And subscribe to get a notification anytime we share real-life stories of awesome acts.